Welcome back to the Surf Mastery Podcast. The guest in this episode is Ifft. Eddie is a stand-up comedian, podcaster, and surfer. I think stand-up comedians are so important in society. They help us to point out our failings through satire and humour, and just to take a lighter-hearted look at some of the things that we often take too serious. And that is what happens here. Eddie has a great take on the surfing culture and some very funny surfing stories. This episode is a little different than what you're used to on this podcast, so I will put a strong warning here. Parents, if there's any groms listening, this episode is definitely not appropriate. If you're not a fan of dark comedy, shock comedy, satire in general, this is definitely not the episode for you. You have been warned. There will be links to everything Eddie in the show notes, but for now, I will fade in my conversation with Eddie Ifft.
Even the stuff like, my wife will go, "This is what I want for Christmas. What do you want?" And I'm like, why don't I just go get what I want? I don't understand why we're doing this. It's like,
What if you just wanted to go surfing on Christmas Day?
that's one of my favorite things in the world is to surf on Christmas, but we're usually on the East Coast and it's so cold over there that I can't go. I surf I love to surf on the holidays because I feel like a lot of people don't go. And so there's never, it's not the polluted parking lot waters that we have here in California.
Yeah. When did you start surfing?
Like really start surfing probably 15 years ago. Maybe. Yeah, I was what beach grit hates. I was but I was always like an ocean guy. Like I grew up like in the ocean. I was an ocean lifeguard for years, and I would surf a little bit. Like I'd take out like the rescue boards and ride waves, and there just was no surf in New Jersey unless you were there in the winter or during a hurricane. So it just like seemed futile. I'm like, why do people own surfboards here? This is ridiculous. There's no waves. And then I found like that you have to really like hunt for them, and you could find them. They're really good in New Jersey if you know where to look at the right times. But I would just go out and ride these 1 foot waves on a giant longboard. Then I moved to California. I was living in New York doing stand-up comedy for 10 years. And I was just partying all night long and sleeping until noon. And I was like, I got to get out of here. And I was like, I'm going to move to LA and I'm going to start surfing and I'm just going to like get back. Like I've always been an outdoorsy kind of person. I was a skier. And I was like, I've got to get back to like my roots. And so it was good. I just started surfing one day, and it was like one day and it clicked and couldn't stop.
What beach was that?
Probably the worst break in all of California, Venice Beach.
Yep.
It might be the worst wave in all of California. It shouldn't even have a name. It's a closeout like beach break that gets so crowded. And for like 5 years, I was like, why do I suck so bad at surfing? Like, why? And then I started going to Australia and I started surfing like real waves. And I was like, oh, they don't all close out.
Surfing's like the crack of drugs, right? It's the worst sport to get into, and it's the most addictive.
It's also the crack because it's the cheapest in a way.
And it attracts a similar crowd too.
Yeah, because it's cheap. It's dirt cheap. I was just telling somebody, it's like I was taking my family skiing this year, and I might as well sell my house to take them skiing. It's so expensive. But surfing, it's like you buy even a brand new board, you spend $700. You buy one wetsuit a year, maybe two. So you're spending gas money and a wetsuit.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that. I always thought it's so expensive to live near the coast, but you don't really have to. You can just live 15 minutes away and just drive there.
Yeah. And probably the best surfers at the break where I surf are from the valley. They drive over the mountain to come there. And Yeah, there's no skateboarding's pretty cheap.
Yes. There's a better culture in skateboarding, though. Do you skate as well?
I used to skate a lot, like I wouldn't say a lot, not obsessively. I started in BMX
Mm.
and I like BMX. I was obsessed with BMX, obsessed. And so when skateboarding started becoming popular in the 80s, I was kind of mad because it was overtaking BMX. And it was like what happened to me with skiing and snowboarding. I was a skier, and then snowboarding came around. Snowboarding became the cool thing, and I was like, "Oh fuck you guys! I'm a skier. Can I swear on this?
Yeah.
Okay." I was like, I'm a skier. Oh, now you guys, and I started snowboarding right away, but I was like, now I'm starting over, and I was already good at that. It was the same thing happened with BMX. I was good at like half pipe and everything on a bike, and now I got to learn how to do it on four little wheels, and so it was upsetting.
But there's at least with skateboarding, it's sort of, this every time you go to the skate park, it's the same skate park, and it's not as crowded as surfing. You don't have to sit around waiting for a piece of the skate park to come and meet you.
Right. But there's something about that. I think that might be my favorite part of surfing. I was just talking to a buddy yesterday who's a hunter, and he hunts everything. He was telling me like bear, this elk, everything that he shoots, squirrel. He does it every day. He's like, my wife doesn't get it. He's like, I leave in the morning, I'm gone for 2 hours, and I come back, and I might have killed 12 squirrels or one bear. And he's like, I sit there and it's just alone time, and I'm just like hoping something comes around or I track something. And I go, yeah, that's what surfing is. That's why I've surfed the wave pools, but it's not the same.
No, you're right. That's one of the allures of surfing, and you can sit there like a hunter who's waiting in a blind or whatever, or you can be the guy that's paddling around trying to hunt down every little wave, which is surfing's a very primal thing. And you're right, that's what's part of the allure, is it's such a limited resource, but it's also what makes a portion, let's say, of the surf culture so terrible, and it brings out the worst in people.
It really does. I mean, and I've seen it. There have been days where it brings out ugliness in me, where I'm late. I only have an hour to surf, and I'll surf it like it's a heat. In my head, I'm like, I got to get as many waves as possible. And when a guy's paddle, I'm like, how dare you paddle for that wave right now? Like, who do you think you are? And I'm like, who do I think I am? Like, how dare I act like this over a wave of water? Like, like what is wrong with me? And I get mad at myself if I ever do it, because I'm usually the laid back one that's like, go ahead, it's all yours. Like I'm not going to fight you for it. Like, but every once in a while when it's usually if I'm in a bad mood. So I just figure when those guys are like that, they're just in a bad mood and I feel sorry for them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, often they're really nice guys in the car park, but as soon as a wave comes, they don't even want to look at you, let alone be friendly.
I went surfing with a guy. I'm sorry to say he was Australian, and he befriended me. He's like, hey man, he became like my best friend. We actually went not best friend, but he was like buddy buddy. We went and did the California double where you snowboard and surf in the same day. And so we went surfing in the morning, I believe. Or, yeah, we went surfing in the morning, and then we drove out to go snowboarding. He was like my best friend, but he snaked me on every single wave. And and I and I kept thinking, like, has anybody ever talked to him? Like, does he I have a friend's wife who does it too. She does it to all of us. And we're like, no one says it. Like I want to like scream at her just because it's like so often. If it was one time, no big deal. Two times, it's like every wave. And I'm like, how do you live with yourself?
Yeah, they're just not even aware with it. It's like, the thing is, if no one says anything, then of course they're just going to keep doing it.
Yeah, but tell me if I'm wrong. When you're out in the lineup and you look around, you kind of judge people and you watch people surf a wave. And if they miss one, you're like, no more chances for you.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, you're now on my list of guys that I don't get out of the way for. You're now in my way.
Oh
And
yeah.
then you start to. So I will say this, and women will hate this. I look at a woman out there 9 times out of 10, and I'm just being like, I'm I'm uh, I'm being what with generalizing and stereotyping, but I'm going to go. There's a good chance that this girl is not a good surfer. I mean, you can also look at the factors involved, what kind of board she's riding, what her wetsuit is. There's ways to distinguish. It's like, I've always said white people, black people. When people go, "Oh, you're prejudiced" or whatever, it's like if I saw a black guy wearing a Harvard sweatshirt walking to me, I'm not going to be afraid of him. But if he has his pants hanging around his ass crack and he's got a do rag on and he's got gold teeth, I might be scared. My chances are the guy in the Harvard sweatshirt, and same way with white guys. If I see a white Appalachian redneck, bogan dude walking at me, opposed to a guy in a 3-piece suit, I know which one I'm going to probably prejudge and say, it's good to do a deduction that this guy might be the one that I should cross the street and get away from. So, in saying that, there's not a lot of great female surfers yet. Sure, you can name tons of pros, but like, look in the lineup, they're day after day after day. It's all men out there. So when you see a woman come out, you're like, oh, she's probably really good. But you see a bunch of women out there, you're like, So when I see a woman going for a wave, and I've done this myself where I'm like, I look at her right away and I'm stereotyping in general, and I go, she's not going to catch this. So like, I'm going for it because there's no way she's going to get it. Now, I've been caught wrong many times. But so what I'm saying is men probably do that to women so often that like women and I've heard women kind of talk about this, like where, they just like, it's like they're ignored, like they're paddling for a wave and every guy beside them's like, she's not getting that, and they go. And so that's why my friend's wife drops in on everyone, because she's just like, you know what? You guys all paddled on me. I'm just going.
Yeah, that's part of the reason. But it's interesting. Like we judge as surfers, you have to get really good at judging people.
Yeah,
because even just by the way that they're moving, you can tell whether they're going to catch the wave. You start to learn these nuances, and if they missed the wave before, yeah, you had your chance, mate. I'm going, and you know that they're not going to do anything about it. The woman has the extra advantage of, well, I'm not going to get punched in the face.
That is so true too. That
Yeah.
no one, I had a chick ding my board, brand new board, so badly the other day, and it was we're at a left that is, it's lefts, and every once in a while like a cheeky right comes through, and here comes that right, and everybody sees when the rights are coming, because if you're on that side, you're just like, because everybody's there as a goofy foot, everybody wants the lefts, and nobody really wants the rights, but it's kind of like this, I'll take it. So I see it, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go right. I start to paddle on the right, and she's coming from like a section down on the left that's like there's nothing there. And it's just, I'm so blatantly on this wave, and she just comes flying over it, just smashes into my board. I remember like I locked my legs around my board so that I wouldn't kill her. And I was like, I'm just going to like hold on to so it doesn't like slingshot off. And she's like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, you're not sorry. You were, but there's nothing I can do. If that was a guy, I would have been so mad, because I just picked my board up right there and it's like on the rail. And I'm like, oh. And she's like, I'll pay for it. I'm like, no, you go. You go. You.
Yep, it's so true. Yeah, there's not enough awareness. There's not enough shame in surfing either, as well.
I saw a hot chick in the parking lot. We have a parking lot system here in LA where a lot of the parking lots you got to buy a ticket. It's like $8 to park at the beach. But then when you leave, you just give it to somebody else. And so you go around. You leaving? Can I get your ticket? So I'm leaving one day, and there's this hot chick in a bikini. And she goes, I go, hey, do you need my ticket? And she goes, no, I already have one. And then I see three other guys offer her ticket. And I go, that's why you don't get equal pay.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, she's the person that doesn't get dropped in on. In fact, she gets any wave she wants because guys have this
Right.
weird, oh yeah, go, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Um, I do it to Groms too. I give Groms waves and then I always go, why? These kids are getting like 5,000 waves. They weigh 20 pounds. They get picked up on every single wave. And I'm like, why do I always give them? And I think it's because I'm a father. And I just like think of it as like it's my kids. And but then they'll just come out and just hang out around me and just start. I'm like, all right, this is getting annoying, guys. They go on everything. They go
Yeah,
on everything. They have endless energy. Their shoulders, they don't know what shoulder pain is yet.
so true. What's your worst surfing experience?
I don't know. I've never really had anything that. I mean, it's usually like showing up to surf after driving. And I remember one time I went to get my surfboard off my roof and put my elbow right through my sunroof. And it shattered. My little puppy was underneath, and that was bad because I couldn't surf. Had to wait for them to come vacuum my car out before I could drive it, and was worried about the little puppy. And uh, that was probably. I haven't had too many bad accidents. I did get my nose broken um, by my buddy again. I'm going right, he's going left, and he's like not a good surfer, and he's on like a rainbow foamy board, and I see him coming down, like coming towards me. We're both on two different sections, and he's just coming at me, and so I like put my shoulder down and tackled him, like like a football player would, and I just thought it was funny that I tackled him, and we're both laughing. And as we're like coming up above the water, I see his giant foam board flying in the air, and the fin just comes down and goes crack,
Oof.
and blood just went everywhere. And my contact lens came out, and I'm really bad. I have really bad eyesight, and so I felt like blinded because I had like the blood was in my eye, the contact's gone, and I'm like, oh my god, he just like knocked my eye out of my head, and I'm like, oh, and I start paddling in. He goes, where are you going? I'm like, he's like, come on, I'm like, where do you think I'm going? And his girlfriend comes running down the beach because she sees me bleeding, and she's like, oh my god, are you okay? And I'm like, I go, is my eye in there? And she goes, yeah, let me look. And she goes, she found my contact lens. She goes, here's your contact lens. I'm like, oh, I was like, I thought I couldn't see it. She's like, oh, but your nose. And I just like a giant gash down here, and there's still a little bump from it. And he thought it was funny. Okay, that would probably be the worst. I hit the bottom hard one day, really high. I mean, I was on a show called Getting Dug with High, where they make you smoke weed and you get like super high. And I don't really smoke a lot of pot, and I wanted to like get it to wear off. It like wasn't going away. I was so high. And I was like, I'll go surfing. I was like, that'll wear it off. Like, I'll just get like so wrapped up in surfing that I'll sober up. And I remembered like every time I'd wipe out, I'm like, just enjoy the wipeout. Just like take it and just go with the flow. And I remember just getting like thrown off the board, and rather than like try to swim out of it or break, I just went like, and all of a sudden I went bam, and my head just went off the bottom of the ocean. And I was like, I got to get out of here. Like this is dangerous.
There's a good lesson. So was that with? Is that a comedian, Doug?
Yeah, Doug Benson. Yeah, it's a funny show. Getting Doug with High.
When has it? Is it still going?
Yeah, he's on Patreon now though. It used to be a big show. I mean, it was a big deal to do, and I did it with Tommy Chong. I've done it a number of times, and I really don't like to smoke weed, but he thinks I'm really funny when I'm high because I freak out a lot. And so he's like, come on the show. And I'm like, oh, so I could freak out for you.
Hmm. So how long have you been doing comedy? I mean, first of all, I'm a huge fan of your
Oh, thank
comedy,
you. Appreciate it.
and so glad that you agreed to do the show. But when did you start? When did you get into comedy, and what inspired you to?
27 years ago, I was living in Pittsburgh with my parents going, this is life. I was like, I want to kill myself. I wasn't suicidal, but I was like, I was just depressed that after college, this was the rest of my life. I was like, so I'm going to do what my dad does and live where my dad and mom do. And I'm going to go to work every day. And it just wasn't enough. It was like, oh, this is so like, I thought there was going to be more to life. And, uh, and I didn't know how to get out. Like wasn't a good student. It's not like the opportunities were knocking down the doors, or knocking. Like I wasn't. No one wanted me. There was not one person was like, "Hey, you should come work with me," or "Hey, I got a great idea for you." It was just like my dad sold insurance. He's like, "Yep, put your suit on, come to work," and I was like, "Wow." And one day I used to like go make girls laugh in bars and stuff and just try to be goofy. And my buddy was even funnier than me, like way funnier. And he was like a waste of life. Like he was doing nothing. Not he wasn't even working for his dad. He was like collecting quarters to go, get gas money. And he's like, I said, "You're really funny. You should go do stand up comedy." And he was like, I don't know how to do that. So I called the comedy club, and they're like, "Yeah, you got to get 5 minutes of material. Come down, do an open mic." So I was like, "Here, do 5 minutes." So he started telling me his jokes, and they were terrible. I was like, "Here, I'll write them for you." So I started writing the jokes, and I was like, "These are pretty good." And then I was like trying them out in bars on girls and making them laugh. And so I kept pushing him to do it, and he wouldn't do it. So I called the comedy club, and they're like, "Yeah, you got to get on this open mic." So I got on the open mic. I did it, and the rest was history.
Huh.
It was like, I told my dad, I sat my dad down. It was like he thought I was coming out of the closet. I was like, "Dad, I have something to tell you." I sat him down. I was like, "We got to have a talk." He's like, "Okay." I was like, "There's something you don't know about me." And he was like, "Huh?" And I'm like, I've been moonlighting at night doing stand-up comedy. And he's like, "Huh?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do stand-up comedy. I'm a comedian." And he's like, oh. And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "This is what you have to tell me." And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want to be a comedian?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to be a comedian." And he's like, "Oh my God." He goes, "I thought you were telling me you were gay." And I was like, "No, I'm a comedian." And he's like, oh. And I'm like, "I think you'd rather I was gay." And he's like, "I think I'd rather that." He was just so embarrassed that I was going to be a comedian. And because my dad's like very serious. And he was like, "So what you're going to do?" I'm like, "Yep." And he was like, "Sure you don't like guys?"
Sounds like it was actually pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Where are you? What part of Australia?
I'm in the best part of Australia called New Zealand.
Oh, you're New Zealand.
Yeah.
I should have known that accent. Can't believe I didn't decipher that.
Yeah,
Um,
I have a pretty mellow accent. I actually lived in Australia for a while, lived in America for ages, lived in Malibu most recently, and just have returned back to New Zealand. So
so what part of New Zealand?
I'm in a place called Hawke's Bay.
Oh, I know Hawke's Bay.
Yeah, oh yeah. You surfed Tiawonga?
I don't think so. I toured all over. I did like I did. I think I've been to New Zealand 3 or 4 times,
Nice.
and I used to do that comedy festival in Auckland.
Yeah,
And I would mostly surf Piha.
yeah.
I'm very angry that I never got to surf Raglan because I'm a goofy foot, and it just looks like it'd be my place.
Put it on the bucket list.
Yeah, it pretty much is. I mean, I remember we were doing this tour, and I was going to try to break away from the tour because I was in a van with like 5 other comedians, and I was like, I told my promoter and my agent, I was like, I'm just going to rent a car so that I can shoot off like or leave early. And 'cause we were going to New Plymouth
Yep.
and then down somewhere else. And I was like, I think I can get to Raglan and I'd like to just go surf and then meet them at the show. And the promoter was like, my agent was like, dude, kind of the reason they want you on this tour is like for the camaraderie and the like you're in the van with the New Zealand comics. And I was like, oh, but I want to surf.
Do you follow the Raglan Surf Report?
Yeah, that dude's funny.
He's good. See, I'm sure you guys would get on like a house on fire, and he'll get you into some waves.
Yeah, he's a good surfer too.
Oh, he's incredible.
Yeah, it's like Sterling Spencer. Sterling's funny, and he's a really good surfer.
Yeah.
You know, I always say people are like, "You're funny." I'm like, "I'm not a good surfer. I'm passionate." You know, every once in a while I can hit the lip and make a nice turn, but I don't know. I've mastered not mastered, but like other sports that I got into from BMX to skiing to it was like boom, I got it. Like surfing, struggle. It was hard. I finally feel like I got it. Like and I think it just took years of understanding and I would have thought from being an ocean lifeguard that I'd understand the wave, but it's like, no, I finally am starting to think I understand it. It's a hard sport.
Because the medium's always different. Whereas tennis, there's always the tennis court's always the same. But surfing, it's probably more like comedy, right? The crowd's always different. So you got to adjust your material for the crowd.
I do a lot of analogies I have a lot of surfers on my podcast, and the only way I can relate to them is by saying, in comedy we do this, because I can't say, oh yeah, I've been thrown under Jaws 30 feet where I didn't think I was going to get to the surface, but I have performed, in in the middle of Harlem where the entire audience is booing me, where I think I can't breathe.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, where'd you live in Malibu?
I was in Point Doom.
Oh, nice.
I know.
Nice.
Yeah, I got to surf. They had a key to Little Doom. Was surfing Little Doom.
What?
Yeah.
How'd you work that out?
Oh, I married someone who was reasonably successful in business.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's one of my spots. I surf there a lot.
Yeah. You got someone who has got a key?
Yeah, I got a bunch of buddies up there. And which wave did you like to surf there?
Oh, I would always take quite a big board out and just paddle around everywhere, just because it's such a strange wave. Sometimes, depending on the tide, it would break here or on the outside or the inside. I was down there every day. I'm surprised, and that was only a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So I'm surprised I never saw you down there. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever see Daniel Tosh down there?
No.
He surfs there a lot.
Yeah, I remember seeing Chris Martin all the time, Neil Strauss all the time, Laird Hamilton was always out.
Yeah, I'd see Neil, and I've surfed with Neil. Mike D's down there. I've seen Laird out when I'm at Johnny Knoxville.
Yep.
Who else have I seen down there? My buddy's was a pro baseball player, pretty good one too, like MVP, and he surfs with us down there. And one day I was there. It was me, him. We saw Johnny Knoxville, and I was talking to John. We have like mutual friends, so we're talking. And Laird comes by on his like foil board, and the one guy with us goes to me. He goes, "This is just weird." He's like, "I'm not gonna lie to you." He's like, "If I told my friends at home that I'm surfing with like a professional comedian, a professional baseball player, Laird Hamilton comes by, Johnny, they'd be like, yeah, whatever, man."
It's a strange scene down there, man. It really is.
I didn't know Chris Martin surfs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know he lives up there. I know I've seen Anthony Kiedis and Ed Norton, and a lot of guys down in that area. The best wave is Big Doom when it's firing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's gnarly. That gets gnarly too. Right up, especially right up on the point, up against the rocks. That'll sort the men out from the boys.
That's a good wave.
Oh yeah.
Like when it's, and I don't like it that much because I'm a goofy foot. But if that was going left, I'd be in heaven.
Mm.
Heaven. Like I would like that way better than even like third point, third, second, first. Like that wave. That's when people talk about the best wave in Malibu. I'm like, you might be right there on a good swell.
Where do you usually surf?
I don't like to say it, but
You don't have to.
it's already overcrowded. You might be able to figure it out. I'm a goofy foot.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. It gets good there.
Yeah, I already deal with all of them. So yeah. And they all know who I am. So I have to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah. I never really surfed there because I'm not a goofy foot, and I had a little doom key, so that's probably why we never really bumped into each other.
If I had that key, I don't think I would ever. I'd learn to go right.
There is actually a little left there too, but
Which one?
that comes off outers.
Yeah, I've taken that, but you end up in the rocks.
Yeah, you get used to that.
Yeah, I've taken that left. Yeah, outers is pretty good.
Oh, it gets once you learn the wave and the tides and stuff, you can get good wave, and then of course the fluctuation of the crowd and stuff. You know what it's like being a local somewhere. You learn when to go.
Did you have a golf cart?
No, that was missing actually.
Yeah, that's the goal of a golf cart.
I know. I had the dream, had the house in Point Doom, the nanny, the Escalade, but we never got the golf cart.
So how did you end up back in New Zealand?
Oh, so sadly, we separated, and then she passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Oh, don't be sorry, man. She was a cunt. All right, I got you to laugh. That was one of my goals.
Can I clip that and put that on my Instagram? That's the thought we were going to go down some sad story. Wait, I think the mistake is, though, that you separated before she died. Because you could have had a house in Point Doom right now.
Oh, yeah, but no. You see, so she was quite, let's say, narcissistic. And then once she passed away, it turned out that all of her, air quotes, business success was a little bit of a farce. And
like a Ponzi scheme.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well. Well, you did get to live in Point Doom for a while.
I had the experience, dude. I'll never forget that. And, I remember before we met, man, I used to, when I was single, I used to love giving head to women. Just love giving head. But by far the best head I ever gave a woman was a headstone.
What'd she die of?
I can't say. I won't say, actually. I don't. That's one thing I don't really want to get. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a bit of a dark time, but obviously, I've come to terms with it and using humor to deal with it.
Right. I get you. I understand. That's when there are probably people listening that are freaked out. Like, I can't believe they would. And it's like, some people don't understand. It's how a lot of people deal with tragedy. And, I always tell people when they're like, bro, you can't make fun of people and this and that. And I go, look, one time I thought I was paralyzed. I got hit in the neck with a barbell, fell on me. And I got rushed to the hospital in Melbourne, Australia. I was sitting in the hospital and they had this neck thing on me and they were going to run CT scans and x-rays and everything. And all I could do was make jokes about being paralyzed because I was so fucking scared that it was like my way of dealing with this horrible tragedy. And so when people get mad at me for like jokes like that, I'm like, just shut up. Like, you don't know how everybody grieves differently. And like, sometimes this is the way people deal with shit. So like, how dare you, criticize me for my way of dealing with this shit. So I don't know, but, fuck. God, I wish you had married, or I wish you had stayed with her so we would have that key.
No, we were actually technically still married. So if everything had been hunky-dory, in the business, I still would have had the key. But when everything was in her name too, because we were both New Zealanders. So when she left, we lost our visas to be in the country. So I had to bring the kids back home to New Zealand. I had no choice in the matter. So yeah.
Where'd you send your kids to school?
They were just at Malibu.
Point Doom Elementary.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Great school.
Yeah. All the schools up there are great. It's
yeah.
not very good in the diversity department, but
or the discipline department.
Yeah. Or the I'm so worried about my kids going to like Malibu High, where the kids are like, "Hey, I got my dad's jet for the weekend. Anybody want to fly to Aspen? Mom, Dad, can I go to Aspen with my friends?" No, you can't.
Yeah, there was a lot. That's one of the negative parts of the culture around there for sure. There's a lot of spoiled brat stuff going on.
I'll tell you a good surfing story. I was at Third Point one day, and I'm paddling for a wave, and I see a guy's got it. He's coming down, and I was paddling really hard for it, and I was just about to take it. I see him out of the corner of my eye, and I just, just push back off, let him get it. He paddles out, and he starts screaming, "Stay the fuck off my waves!" And I'm like, and he's like probably like 18 years old or something. And he's like screaming it over and over again. And he's like a little skinny dude, like a little rich kid from Malibu. And he doesn't stop. He keeps yelling about it. So I just paddled the nose of my board over the nose of his board so that my face is like this far from his face. And I go, "Shut the fuck up." And he goes, "What?" I go, "You're ruining everyone's day by yelling. Shut the fuck up." And he goes, "You fucked up my wave, man." I go, "I didn't fuck up your wave. I got off your wave, and I have news for you. It's not yours." And he goes, "I'm a fucking regular here or something." And I was like, Third Point? Like, that's like saying you're a regular at Bondi Beach in Australia. I'm like, "No, you're not. Because I'm here all the time. I don't see you there." Secondly, I was like, "Just shut the fuck up." So I so calmly said it that he was like kind of scared. And I went to like move, and he like went like this, like he thought I was going to punch him. And I had no intentions of ever hitting him. But he like gets off his board, and he lifts his board up like this to like keep me away from him, because he's like thinks I'm going to hit him. And the wind takes his board, and it just goes wham right in his face. And I kind of giggle, and he goes, "You hit me. You hit me." And I go,
Fuck.
"I didn't hit you." And he goes, "Everybody saw it. You hit me. You hit me. He hit me." And I go, "I didn't fucking hit you." And I go, "Stop being such a fucking little spoiled brat. Shut the fuck up." And so he's like, "But you hit me." So he paddles over like to get away from me. He's like, "I'm just out here trying to surf with my girlfriend." And then he hits, and there's a guy like not even surfing like that I knew, but he was surfing around me. And I go, "Betcha he leaves." And I'm like, because I see waves coming, he's not paddling for anything. And I go, "Betcha he leaves." And like maybe like 2 or 3 waves later, I see him. He doesn't even try to ride a wave in. He just starts paddling in. So I see him paddling in, and I'm like, "Oh, what a pussy." Like, and he paddles in, and I see him like take his leash strap off and start storming over to the lifeguard. And I go to the guy beside me, I go, "He's telling on me." he's telling on me. This kid's like, so, third, second, first, I'm like, and I've got on a green like wetsuit top. And I'm like, fuck, I kind of stand out here. Like he can point, and the guy, and I see him, he's pointing. And so I'm like, should I take this stop off? So I paddle down to Second Point, and I just start surfing there a little bit. Then I paddle down to First Point, and I'm parked up at Third Point. And then I get out, I ride a wave, I get out of the water, and I walk all the way around
the back
to my, and I have a buddy, it's a lifeguard, and I call him, I go, "Hey, dude, this guy just, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Well," I go, "I didn't hit him. I swear I didn't hit him. But he goes, did you say anything? I go, I might have threatened him a little. And he goes, well, that's assault. And I go, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, dude, don't mess with those little Malibu kids because they're all spoiled brats and they all call the cops all the time. And I'm like, but I didn't do anything. He's like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. They're going to call the cops on you. And the cops are going to come down and his dad's somebody. Your surfboard just hit Steven Spielberg's kid in the face. You're getting in trouble. And I go, oh yeah. He goes, don't fuck with those little kids. He goes, they get everything they want. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to kill them all.
So what did anything happen from that, or you get away with it?
No. I got away with it. I mean, I sneaked out of there. There was no way. Did you see the thing that just happened in Malibu? It made like national, or it was like global news.
Do you mean about a month ago with this board bashing?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that was crazy.
Yeah, someone lost the plot. You just can't get away with that nowadays with CCTV and
I was just talking to a guy over in Hawaii who's a Dahui guy, and he's like, yeah, he's like, you'd get your face broken if you surfed out at V-Land. He's like, now he goes, you should see how many kooks are out there. He's like, it's crazy because everybody's got a camera,
yeah.
and he's like, you're not getting away with anything.
Yep.
That's why I always say when guys like yell and scream out in the water, I'm like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Like, you just sound like, honestly, like a Karen, because you can't do anything about it. Like, I'd have more respect for you if you went over and punched the guy out. Like, I'm not advocating violence or anything, but what I'm saying is like that yelling and screaming that you do is worse than hitting someone, because it's like, it's so, you can't do anything. So you're just like a little bitch out there. And I had it happening. It's a big funny story among like all my friends, because I didn't know this guy, but he knows everyone I know. And I paddle out one day, I just get to third point, and I don't usually surf there. And I'm hunting for lefts, and I see this guy get up, and I'm like, and I'm paddling out. He's he's coming into the wave, and I just go, I'm going to go to my right because no one takes lefts there. It's a right. And so I paddle to my right so that I'm not in his way. He goes left on his wave, so I'm in his way now. So he like falls off his board and he starts like screaming. He's like, you fuck up my wave, blah, blah, blah. And as he's paddling back out, he's splashing the water, and he keeps splashing the water and yelling. And he's not like looking at me, but it's obviously me. He's like, what the fuck? Fucking kooks out here, blah, blah, blah. And I go, excuse me? And he goes, fuck. I go, do you have something to say? And he goes, yeah, you fucking ruined my wave. I go, you weren't going to get that. And he goes, what the fuck? He starts yelling at me, and he goes, who are you? Just show up, Johnny come lately, Mr. Johnny come lately. That's what I'm going to call you, Mr. Johnny come lately. And I go, you know what I'm going to call you? The nicknamer. That's who you are. You're the nicknamer. You give everyone their nicknames. And he goes, what the fuck? He goes, you know what else they call me? Also known as the Drowner. I'm the Drowner. And I go, so you're a murderer? I go, you murder people? And he just like paddles away. So I don't realize he goes and tells one of my really close friends, who's my neighbor. He tells him the story. And I get out of the water, I run into my friend. I'm like, what's up? And I'm like, I just got into it with some dude. He goes, yeah, I just heard my buddy, blah, 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 got in a fight with some dude too out there. And I go, it's just an argument. And he goes, yeah. And we're telling our stories. He goes, oh, yeah, it was you. And I go, you know the Drowner? And he's like, he told me this story a totally different way. And I was like, yeah, it's always seen the perspective of people.
Yeah.
My favorite thing, I swear to God, is probably more fun than dealing with a heckler, is when somebody starts chirping on me in the water. I like, I've been doing stand-up comedy 27 years. I know how to like look at you and analyze you and find every single thing that you're possibly insecure about, and
Oh.
then elevate it to the point where I can make the lineup start laughing. I got a guy so bad one day that I thought he was going to drown himself in the ocean. I was making so much fun of him. He had an earring. He had stickers on his board, and I was asking him what tour he was on. I was like, I told him that his daughter called. He had like a flashy wetsuit, like like green and yellow wetsuit, and I was like, your daughter called. She needs her wetsuit back, and I was like, and I go, I don't know who's sponsoring you or what tour you're on, but I think they're losing money. And I was like, and I kept making fun of his earrings and his gold chain. Like he had a gold chain. And he goes to me, I'm a local. I'm a local. And I go, oh, it's a long drive back to that trailer park in Calabasas. And he goes, trailer park, I'm a multimillionaire. I'm a multimillionaire. And I go, and he said something like, and he was an older guy. And he's like, bro, I'm a local. You want me to get the rest of the locals down here? And I was like, oh, no, you better hurry. Nursing home visiting hours are getting late. And everybody's just laughing. He was getting so mad. He got out of the water and he was like yelling at me. He's like, I'm getting my boys. You're fucking done. Blah, blah, blah. So he paddles out of, and this is a county line. And he paddles out of the water. And my wife and my baby at the time are on the beach. And I start to think, oh, maybe this guy looked a bit methy. What if he goes and gets a bunch of guys and county line, some guys that hang out there, scummy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh fuck, I might get, like I might have a group of them convert. This is gonna be good. So I get out of the water and I pick up my baby. I'm like, they won't beat up a guy with a baby. So my wife goes, uh, uh, she goes, all that yelling out in the ocean. She goes, was that you? And I go, yeah, I might have been involved in that. And she goes, I heard all this yelling and guys were laughing. She goes, I was like, oh, is that him? And I go, yeah, maybe might have gotten into a little altercation out there with a dude.
Surf crowd
Yeah.
work.
Oh, I love it. I don't think there's a more fun. My favorite thing to do is say you're not going to do anything. And then my buddy, I came home the day I got in the altercation with the drowner, and he goes, yeah, I just got in a fight with a guy. He goes, I told a guy, I was like, dude, I'm going to come over there and I'm going to punch you in the fucking face right now. And I go, why? You're not going to do that. Like, why would you say that? And he's like, I'm like, my friend's like really wealthy. I go, you'll get sued so badly. And I go, why would you even threaten that? Like, that's what I don't like about it. All the posturing and idle threats.
It's so
Like,
true.
no one's ever going to do anything. Everyone's just yelling at each other and acting like fake tough because they know they can't do anything because there's not only do you have a camera on a board or somebody's wearing a GoPro on their forehead, but Surfline's got cameras on every lifeguard shack, and it's just not happening. It's not happening. And so when I hear it, I'm just like all you have to do is like have a nice conversation with them and go, hey man, I don't think it's fair.
You should get a waterproof microphone, and it's a great idea for a podcast. Surf crowd work.
I would love it. I saw a guy, these are like friends of mine too, so I shouldn't talk shit, but a friend of mine, his friend started yelling at a guy for dropping in on the other friend. Like he was standing up for his friend. He goes, hey man, that was shitty. What are you doing, man? And he's like, I'm sorry I didn't see him. He's like, no, you fucking saw him. You saw him. It's the second time you've done it. You saw him, man. You know what you're fucking doing. And he's like, I told you I'm sorry. And then the guy that got dropped in on's like, whatever, man. You did it twice. And he's like, he goes, all I'm asking for is an apology. He goes, I said I'm sorry. And he goes, I don't know what more you want. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And he goes, and then the guy who says he's sorry, he goes, you didn't say you were sorry when you dropped in on, you burned me. And the guy goes, I don't have to. And I'm like, why do we turn into 4-year-olds out there? Like, you owe me an apology. Well, then you apologize. I don't have to apologize. I'm a local. I'm a local. I don't have to apologize.
Oh, it's a giant pissing contest.
It's hilarious. It's the funniest, most childish thing in the world. No other sport. I don't think this goes on anywhere.
Yeah. Do you know that the heaviest? I've got a story around this, and it happened at Little Doom. And so I was surfing Little Doom, was just having a quick surf. So I'll admit I was being a bit of a wave hog, and I caught 2 or 3 waves in a row just with having a quick surf. And on my last wave, was about to go in, I'm surfing, and someone starts to drop in on me. I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. I didn't mind. I was started to straighten out. But instead of going right and surfing the wave, this surfer just comes straight at me, goes left, comes straight at me, pushes his longboard into my shins on purpose, and then tackles me, right?
Wow.
Gets me around the neck, tries to hold me underwater. And this is a big guy. He's got like 20 kilos on me, 40 pounds on me. And I'm like, oh shit, this guy's serious. So I then, forcefully stand up and get my hand around his neck, and we're like eye to eye. And I'm thinking, should I headbutt this dude? And I look him in the eye and go, this guy looks like he's on meth. I probably shouldn't. And I was just we started arguing about it, and he starts sort of shaking and going red in the face and yelling at me. Heavy situation, like literally tried to drown me. Like I had to fight for my life back.
That's scary as shit. That's like my greatest fear.
Yeah, full on Point Break. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he tries to then he starts undoing the leash of my board, says he's going to push my board into the rocks. I'm like, whoa, and I was like, I got to get away from this dude. He's crazy.
Well, you know what that is? That's probably one of those Point Doom, like real estate rich, life poor guys.
Oh, I know. I found out later on who it was. I won't say his name, but I will say he works for.
Oh, I think I know who it is.
And turns out it's not the first time he's physically threatened people, and has been in and out of rehab, has mental health issues.
Oh, I know who it is now. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. That was my heaviest situation at Little Doom. Out of all places around, I've surfed around the world, some crazy gnarly places, and then the bougiest place in the world, that's when my gnarliest run-in happens.
Well, that's because that's where most of the entitlement is.
Exactly.
But I was in Maroubra down in Sydney, eastern suburb where the Bra Boys are from. And my buddy always used to like to surf there. Like if it like certain swell, he's like, let's go. I was always like, I don't want to surf there. I don't want to get, like there. You don't want to be dropping in on someone there and get in trouble with like a bra boy, so I was like, I just would rather. He's like, no, everyone's so cool down there, blah, blah, blah. So I'm surfing one day, and there's 2 Brazilians out there, and the guy's got cauliflower ears that look like a head of cauliflower on each ear. And every wave I paddled for, he paddled for, he was in, no matter what side he was on of me. And he would it was a competition between the 2 of us. And I was like, I don't know why we can't spread out. Why, I kept going away, and he kept coming near me. And I was like, why does this guy, literally, he made it a thing. Like, I'm going to. And so when I would paddle for waves, he would get so close beside me that his arm would go over my arm, and he would grab my arm. And I was like, I'm okay. And at one point I just looked at him and I go, do you want me to leave? It's like, because I'll go home. I don't have to be here. I can go to other waves. You're aggressively it was like we were in a contest and it was the end of the heat, and he was shadowing me, and I was like, excuse me, sir. do you want me to go home? Because it was like, he was like, you cannot get a wave here today. I was like, okay, I'll stop trying. This cauliflower here,
Did
I'm
you
not
get a
going at it with
response?
that dude. No, I don't even think he spoke English. I think he only spoke Portuguese. And my buddy's like, what happened? You weren't getting any waves. I'm like, that guy didn't want me to. He decided I wasn't allowed to surf there today. My friend's like,
Oh,
I was just like,
surfing.
yeah, it's hilarious. That's
Yeah.
the funny people that don't surf don't know this part of it. Like my wife, sometimes I'll come home, she'll be like, how was it? And I'm like, it was terrible. She'll go, what do you mean? I'll be like, I didn't get any waves. And she'll be like, what do you mean you didn't get any waves? I'm like, I didn't get any waves. How did you not get any waves? I'm like, you don't get it.
Yeah. It is a funny culture.
Yeah. What's so overcrowded?
Oh.
Is New Zealand crowded?
Yeah, but there are parts, unlike California, where there's people everywhere. In New Zealand, you can drive for an hour up the coast and find no one out of the major cities. So we are
Yeah,
blessed with
that's what I
that.
found in Australia too.
Yeah. Yeah. The good waves are crowded in New Zealand. Yeah, it's crowded and there's entitlement and there's the same shit as everywhere else, man.
Right.
But yeah, you can drive and get uncrowded waves here.
My buddy's got a farm over there. Um, and he keeps telling me to come over. I think he went, what day is today? Yeah, he left on Monday. He's over there now.
Nice. Well, COVID's over. You got to come do some shows.
Yeah, you know what happened? I had a bad experience over there. When I was on tour, I was with 5 other comedians, and one of them was Hannah Gadsby. Nanette.
Mm, the name rings a bell, but
It was a Netflix special, and it's like super PC. And I was on tour with them all, and I just wasn't having a good experience because of the comedians I was with. And then one day I smoked some pot over there that like I lost my mind. That's why I don't smoke pot. I started getting panic attacks and freaking out. And I don't I do okay at stand up. I was killing it in New Zealand. I was getting like standing ovations. And I was like, I found my people. And my tour manager was like, "Oh, I toured this guy last year. He sold out every." He goes, "You're gonna after these shows, you're gonna sell out everywhere." And I was like, "I'm never going back. Never." I was like, "I'm never going back." And I haven't been back since. But my buddy has a house there and a farm, and I keep saying I'm going to go visit him, and maybe I'll do a tour again.
yeah. Well, I listened to your on Spotify, the Australian live tour. I mean, you have this obviously you're very successful in America, but you also have the ability to talk to the New Zealand and Australian crowd too, and it's brilliant. So yeah, you should definitely come to another show here.
Yeah, I would love to. So I've had a couple promoters try to bring me over. I want to go. I forget where my friend. He used to have a house in Piha, but he sold that, and now he's got a farm somewhere. But no, I'm talking about Serge. My buddy's a famous singer. As if
Oh,
everybody in New Zealand probably knows who he is. And I don't want to say where he lives anyways. I forget where his house is. But you're on the East Coast, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you get all that swell. That that's what? South what swell do you get then?
We get south swells in winter, and then we get the northeast swells in the
Oh
summer.
yeah, that's how it works. You get the south swells in the winter.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So when Raglan goes in the summer,
No, Raglan's more of a winter wave.
okay.
Like if you came here in like March, April, like the start of the winter swells, that'd be the best time to surf the west coast, like Taranaki and Raglan, and the water's still not, the weather's reasonably settled that time of year as well. You get good waves everywhere.
I performed somewhere in Hawke's Bay, and I'm trying to think
The
where it
Cabana
was.
in Napier, the Cabana.
It was a theater tour. We played a whole bunch of theater
Oh
because there were
yeah,
like five of us, but we did so many shows. What's the one that I used to always make fun of? Tauranga.
Tauranga. Yeah,
Uh, how do you say it?
Tauranga.
Tauranga. They would always make fun of me for saying it wrong. Yeah, we were like based in Auckland, and then we went all over the North Island, and then flew down. we did Nelson and Blenheim and Christchurch, and I'm trying to think where else we did. Invercargill.
Yep.
I went all over. But what was where's the Lake Wanaka? We
Mm-hmm.
did the ski mountains,
Yep.
and there was one other place near Lake Wanaka. What was the place?
Queenstown.
Yeah, we did Queenstown. But there was a ski resort down there near Lake Wanaka. What's the famous ski resort?
Coronet Peak.
No.
Yeah, I'm not much of a skier.
Yeah, I didn't find like we're the only place like there was one place that you can surf near Tauranga, right?
Oh yeah,
Isn't there like what's the beach there? There's a famous
Mount Maunganui.
that might be that's it. That's
Yeah.
it. That's where I was going to surf and I didn't.
Yeah, no, we get great waves here in New Zealand. It's very seasonal though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I loved even Piha, which people don't think is a very good wave. I loved it.
Most it's because people don't want others to know that Piha gets good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it also gets pretty wild too. That stretch of coast.
Where was the big? You had a big shark attack recently, didn't you? Someone died.
Oh really?
I think so in the last year or something.
Oh, maybe I don't even watch the news to be honest.
I feel like New Zealand had one, and it was like it's kind of spooky because it's just such a small place, to
Yeah,
have one.
yeah. So you have a CrossFit podcast as well.
Yeah, don't ask. It was sort of making fun of CrossFit, then I started making money from it. I had to stop making fun of it.
Oh, is that how it started? Funny. So do you do CrossFit though?
Yeah, yeah. I started out doing it probably like 12 years ago, and I was doing it because I like knew all these like hardcore like psychopaths that like my cousin was a Navy SEAL, and I was like, what do you do to work out? Because I don't want to be big. Like being big is detrimental to everything I want to do. And I was like, so I want to be strong and fast. And he was like, do this workout. So I started doing this thing called SEAL Fit. I was doing their workouts, and then some days the guy wouldn't program a workout, and he would say, just go to CrossFit.com and do their workout. And so after a while, I was like, well, what's this CrossFit page? And I went to that, and I'm like, let's just start doing it. I started doing it on my own and on my own. Then my buddy one day was like, they have a gym where they do that. So I went to the gym and I was like, oh, all these guys are badasses. And then the next thing you know, all the soccer moms showed up. And then it was like they were all about let's have a party and let's all do this and let's all buy matching socks. And I was like, I can't be part of this. And so I started making fun of it on a podcast and just trashing everyone. And yeah, I'd go to these events and guys are like, dude, did you fucking say that about me? And I'm like, I was joking, dude. And I'm like, what are you gonna do? You gonna out box jump me or do some burpees? And I remember I was on Joe Rogan's show once, and I was talking about CrossFit, and Rogan goes, why do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I feel like, like working out. I'm like trying to be a badass. And Rogan's like, let me tell you something. He goes, you take your top CrossFitter from your gym, and I'll take my worst jujitsu person from my gym. And he goes, I guarantee you my guy kicks your guy's ass. And I was like, you're so right. Like this is just a waste of time. So I've been doing it for 12 years. Keeps me in shape though.
Yeah, no, there's plenty of good things about CrossFit. I got my level ones, and that's my background as a personal trainer and stuff. So
Yeah.
it depends on the coach, right? It depends on who's running the gym.
Yep, totally.
But
Is it big in New Zealand?
It's big everywhere I go. But CrossFit's reasonably sized in New Zealand. Yeah. It's a global phenomenon.
But that's where Les Mills is from.
Ah, yeah, touche. You know about Les Mills?
Oh, yeah.
It's the aerobics coach.
Les Mills, that dude's a genius. He figured out how to make money with the certifications.
Mm-hmm.
What a genius.
Yeah. So I did listen to a few episodes of the Wadcast, and you went on the carnivore diet for a bit, or are you still doing it, or?
Well, I did it through McDonald's though.
Yeah, I heard that. Tell us the
I ate
story.
McDonald's for 30 days, 30 days straight of McDonald's only. And we were trying to prove Super Size Me wrong. That you can, like, because Super Size Me, it's like McDonald's will kill you, it'll kill you, it'll kill you. And it's like, no, you'll kill you. Like all the people that go to McDonald's, don't blame McDonald's, blame yourself. Because I went to McDonald's for 30 days. I ate every meal there. My inflammation went down. My HB1AC, which is your blood glucose, which is indicator of diabetes, that went down. My cholesterol levels all maintained, which I have good cholesterol. It all stayed the same. And I lost 11 pounds. I lost 5 pounds of fat, and I gained 3 pounds of muscle.
Okay, what was your strategy though? Were you drinking the big drinks and eating the buns?
No, I drank unsweetened tea. I drank water, and I never ate the buns. And I ate burgers, chicken, and fish, and take the bun off every time. A little bit of cheese, and every once in a while before a workout, I'd have a chocolate milk.
Okay,
That was it. Sometimes a French fry or hash brown. And mornings I'd have like the sausage McMuffin with egg, and I would take off the bun. I'd have 2 of those. It proves that, like, as bad as that food is, that's still better for you than if you went into the best grocery store and ate that shit in the middle of the store that's all processed.
touche.
It's full of sugar.
Yeah.
Sugar is just, it was a pure indictment on sugar.
Mm.
Like, if you have your choice between a totally organic crackers or a burger patty from McDonald's, the burger patty from McDonald's is your better bet.
Yeah, that high fat, high protein, high sodium diet is the way.
Yeah. And It's not like everybody talks about caloric restriction, but there's a lot more to it.
Oh yeah.
Because it's a lot about it's like maintaining protein and maintaining muscle mass. You're not doing that with carbohydrates. You're doing that with you need your protein. So I was eating about 1.5 pounds of protein a day.
Is any of that stuck? Like, do you continue any of those habits?
I pretty much went from that to I went from that to eating the same way, but with like grass-fed meat and added vegetables and salads and stuff like that. But the one thing that affected me was the sodium. The sodium was missing then. And so I had to, like, you not just salt my food, but I take, like, I supplement with sodium, potassium, magnesium every day, like heavy. Like I probably do at least 3,000 milligrams of sodium a day.
Yep.
Because I'm not getting it in my food. When I was eating McDonald's, I was getting it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Now when you start cutting out all that processed food, you'd be surprised how much electrolytes and sodium you got to replace other ways.
I was cramping like crazy. It was like I'd like extend my arm and my whole arm would cramp up. I'd be like, what the fuck is that? And I was calling my nutritionist and he's like, dude, sodium. I'm like, no, he's like, more. And I'm like, this sounds dangerous. And he's like, nope, trust me. He's like, what's dangerous is you cramping up and you not having your electrolytes and you dehydrating.
Yeah, I've been I started the carnivore diet 2 years ago. Yeah, I haven't eaten a vegetable in over 2 years. Oh no, that's not true. There was this one girl in a wheelchair. But you think that cauliflower has a bad aftertaste? Try a human flower that's been sitting in a diaper for 4 hours. But yeah, no, once I cut vegetables out and went on the carnivore diet, I've never felt better, man.
People said, how'd you feel? I go, incredible. And they're like, come on. They're like, how are your shits? I go, fine. And they go, but you didn't energy? I go, amazing. Like higher than ever before.
Yeah.
And it worked. There was not one complaint while I was getting creeped out by how well I felt. I was like, I'm eating McDonald's every day and I feel really good.
Yep.
I The thing was, I would buy a bunch of food in the morning and I would have it in my refrigerator. I always had food. I always knew what I could eat. I could eat it and not like worry about, can I eat this or what? It took away all the anxiety of choice. So it was like, oh, just shovel this down. And it was so satiating. Like I always thought that I'd have to eat more, and then I'd eat like two sausage McMuffins with egg in the morning. And I'd be like, I'm going to need to have more food than that. I'm basically eating two patties, two eggs, two slices of cheese. That's not enough food. Like I need potatoes. I need this. I need that. And I'd eat the two and I'd be like, I'm full. I'm
Yep.
full. And I know that I had over 30 grams of protein there. And I'm like, I, I got, I got my proteins. What's going to happen now? And so the only thing was if I need to work out, I would have like a chocolate milk if I was going to do a hard workout.
Yeah.
But
That's a big
do you
CrossFit
eat
thing.
fruit?
Chocolate milk.
Do you eat fruit?
Yeah, I do eat fruit. Yep. Fruit and honey.
So you're doing the Paul Saladino.
Yeah. I follow him. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if all these people. I think it's all theoretic. They all are trying to make money at the end of the day. But I've heard this one working for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, Paul's got a lot of science behind what he does, but the thing is also there is an element of individuality.
Sure.
If you have heritage from India and for 7 generations you've been eating idli and naan bread, yeah, you're gonna digest rice and all that stuff much better than me, who was from some Scandinavian Viking who's grew up eating raw venison. And it's only been eating this processed food for a few generations. I go so.
I think there's so much to that, and that's why it's like it's not for everybody, but it works for a lot of people.
Yeah, I went strict carnivore for a good month, and yeah, I started cramping and just feeling low energy. And it was when I added the fruit and honey back in and some electrolytes.
Interesting. Yeah.
Then I was
Yeah.
fine, better than I ever was on a similar diet, which might be called the paleo diet, where the
Right.
macronutrients are similar, but I cut all the
Yeah,
starch and the
I
vegetables out and better.
I do paleo pretty much now. I've been doing paleo for like 12 years, but do you take electrolytes?
So I'll put like a Himalayan sea salt with some lime juice and maybe a little honey in my water. And then when I do eat, I use a lot of salt. I'm also a regular, so I take the freeze dried organ meat pills. So there's a lot
Yeah,
of,
I've been hearing about that. Like, and I've thought about getting into that because I don't want to eat organ meat. I
yeah,
just don't want to do it.
yeah. So take the freeze dried pills, and I do make my own bone broth. So there's a lot of minerals and electrolytes in the bone broth as well. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a product called Element, LMNT.
yeah, I know it from Rob Wolf. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a good product.
it's amazing. They're not an advertiser of ours, but I have them on our sponsor page because everybody asks me about it because I'm like, this shit, like, I have my kids take it before their soccer games. It's just like, it's Gatorade without sugar.
Yeah,
It's better tasting Gatorade with more electrolytes. And
yeah,
I'm like, he's going to be a billionaire from that product.
yeah, yeah. People that he's providing a great. It's like you said, Gatorade is full of sugar, man. Like all the other electrolytes have just got sugar and
But Gatorade doesn't even have high electrolytes either. It's like, what you got like 280 milligrams of sodium. That's it. That's all you have.
you know
And
that.
and
Well, they call it is it isotonic rather than electrolytes? Was because the dextrose that they put in it actually helps you absorb the water faster, not just the electrolytes. It's the amount of sugar that actually helps it go into your system faster as well. So there's a little bit of clever marketing there.
they make a new product. Gatorade has like a sugar-free product that's pretty good and has higher electrolytes. I don't know what the name of it, but finally, I was like, "Well, this is pretty good."
Mm.
Like, I'm surprised.
Okay, so you've got the Wadcast, but
Hmm.
what else? You've got
Talking shit,
that's coming
talking
back, right?
shit. Just recorded the first episode Monday night, and it got completely out of control. One of the guests walked off the show. It was a nightmare. I mean, it was a nightmare, but it was a good nightmare. Like I'm sitting there going, "This is amazing radio." Like two guys yelling at each other. It was fucking awesome. And it was everything that podcasting should be. So the fight was like like it was an argument, and we had to stop the show and clear things up. But we live stream. Like if you go on our Patreon and you listen through live stream, or like if you can get the live stream. So anybody live streaming saw the whole fight. And so that was like my selling point of why like you got to join the live stream. You get everything, like whatever happens, it's like you're there. Well, then I forgot that I didn't tell the guest that we were live streaming. And the guest was like, "You're live streaming?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "What the fuck?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And he's like, "Dude, this is not cool." And I was like, I know. But if you want to go to patreon.com/talking shit, make sure you get the live stream and you'll see all the shit.
All right. Yeah. I'll put links to all of that stuff in the show notes.
Yeah, nice.
And links to all of your other stuff. You got some audio specials on Spotify, and of course the Malabama one on YouTube. I'll put links to all that stuff.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And thank you so much.
No, man, thanks for doing the show. It's been fun.
Send me that clip. I will post it. I haven't laughed that hard in a long time.
Thank you for tuning into the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend and give us a rating on the app that you're using to listen to this. Make sure you give Eddie a follow on Instagram @EddieIfft, and of course check out his other podcasts and stand-up comedy work. Until next time, keep surfing.